Right lads and man, it's Kebab here. As the 9th generation of consoles launches into full swing, many of us face the prospect of getting rid of our old consoles to replace them with the new ones. But not me. I love useless pieces of plastic taking up space on my shelf, and one console does this better than anything else. It's the Xbox One. So as an Xbox guy, I think it's my responsibility, and my responsibility alone, to take a look back at this thing and see what, if anything, it did right. With the Xbox 360's huge success in the 7th generation, after only 2 consoles, Microsoft was already a strong contender in the gaming market. However, towards the end of the 360's life, Microsoft started to push the console in another direction, one not many gamers were happy with. This is seen most evidently with the release of the Kinect in 2010. Microsoft was very clearly looking at Nintendo's grasp on the casual market and wanted to cash in on the motion control trend. With this focus on casual gaming, a lot of resources were diverted away from first-party titles, leading to a severe lack of good first-party titles in the latter half of the 360's life. At the start we had things like Crackdown and Gears of War. By the end, yeah. This casual focus also damaged the development and release of Microsoft's next console. I think the majority of gamers know how successful the reveal of the Xbox One was. It was not. Even before the console was revealed, news came out that it was required to always be on, along with privacy concerns of the Kinect spying on owners, not helped by the fact that Microsoft didn't see the huge deal in it. The conference itself? Microsoft had claimed previously that the focus of the conference was going to be on the games. Well, that was a fat lie. The majority of the conference was spent talking about media apps and, oh look, you can watch TV on your Xbox. It was clear to basically everyone that Microsoft were catering towards the casual market rather than gamers, with the console's name itself reflecting this, implying it was the one thing you needed in your living room. This blatant lack of any consideration towards gamers pushed many previous Xbox owners towards the PS4, reflected by the launch of the console. The Xbox One released on the 22nd of November, hey, that's today, 2013, roughly a week after the PS4. The console launched with exclusives, not good ones but exclusives nonetheless. Rise Son of Rome, yeah this is terrible, Forza 5 and Peggle 2. This is the best one by the way. Pretty early on it was clear that the PS4 was pulling ahead in sales. It was obvious the console was clearly struggling. Not really a surprise as it was priced at $500 and you couldn't buy without the Kinect. Did I mention they remade the Kinect? This decision does confuse me as the motion control trend had pretty much died off by now. So why they decided to remake this is beyond me. The console itself wasn't winning any awards in the power department, with it being noticeably weaker than the PS4, and looks wise, yeah it wasn't exactly pretty. This thing looks like a VCR, there's no other way of really putting it. If it wasn't hidden under your table 24/7, this thing would scare people. Ah! However, it did launch with one of the best controllers ever made. It takes the 360 controller and improves it in many ways, including the face buttons, improved triggers, and a slimmer battery pack. However, I do have 2 gripes. The first, the D-pad, and second, the bumpers. The problem? I hate this. Although it did experience minor price drops coming up to Christmas, the Xbox One clearly wasn't going to be the all-in-one hot product that Microsoft had wanted it to be. Over the next year, the console continued to struggle. Between launch and early 2015, the console experienced its worst period, seriously lacking behind the PS4 in sales, with a ratio of 2 PS4s being sold for every Xbox One. The games were nothing to celebrate either. Most third-party games ran smoother on PS4, and in terms of exclusives, there was nothing to really brag about. In 2014, we got the Master Chief Collection. Great to have all the Halos on one disc, but at launch, this thing was absolutely riddled with bugs and glitches. Titanfall was fun, but not that substantial of a game. Sunset Overdrive, a criminally underrated open-world shooter, and Forza Horizon 2, great, but just another racing game. 2015 offered a slight improvement, but not incredible by any standard. Halo 5, considered by most to be pretty underwhelming, however the multiplayer was pretty fun. Rare Replay, a solid collection, but was still just a repackaging of old games, and Ori and the Blind Forest, an unexpected but welcome masterpiece of design. However, the weakness in games reflected back on the weakness of the console itself. Pair that with a lack of features and boring looks both in console and interface, there really wasn't a huge reason to buy one of these. Xbox Live worked, but parties and messages often broke, along with the constant interface updates. I kid you not, when I got my Xbox One back in 2014, this thing went through about 4 updates in a year. In comparison to the PS4, it's virtually none. I'm not really sure what Microsoft and the Xbox team was thinking the first 2 years of this console's life, but it was far from smart. And thus, by mid-2015, the console was left in a heap of steam and shit, directionless and dying. But it wasn't the end of the road. On November 12, 2015, the Xbox One received backwards compatibility support for Xbox 360. Although not every game was instantly backwards compatible, Microsoft continued to release more and more as backwards compatible, along with support for the original Xbox over the next few years. I think the importance of this is really understated. Not only did this give 360 owners a reason to buy an Xbox One, it also introduced many people to the huge Xbox 360 library at an affordable price, with the games often running better on Xbox One. This, alongside the introduction of the ability to play Xbox exclusives on PC, bred new life into the brand and started to rebuild the Xbox's reputation. As we moved into 2016, it was evident that the Xbox One was moving along the road to recovery pretty well. We saw the release of some solid first-party titles, Gears of War 4, Dead Rising 4, and Quantum Break. Big whoop! But most notably, we saw the release of a redesign of the Xbox One, the Xbox One S, boasting 4K support, a smaller profile, and cheap price. It gave many a good reason to buy an Xbox One. In fact, back in the day, I had the opportunity to pick one up myself. But did I? What do you think? Problem was, Sony was releasing both the PS4 Slim and Pro at the time. But at this price, and with good enough reason to pick one up, many did buy an Xbox One S. However, 2017 brought about possibly the most significant stride for the Xbox One, Xbox Game Pass, a service allowing you to access over 100 games, both first and third party, for the price of €10/$dollars a month. This was a huge deal for the Xbox One, allowing you to pick up a console and 100 games for around €300/$dollars. Although the PS4 had better games, this was a deal not many consumers could say no to, and helped hugely towards the sales of the console. It was also announced that all upcoming first-party Xbox titles would be available from day one on Game Pass. 2017 also marked the release of the Xbox One X, marketed as the world's most powerful console. This, however, appealed more to a niche audience than the Xbox One S, and more so was released just to say to Sony that we can make a more powerful console, a tactic repeated in the marketing of the Xbox Series X. Games this year were solid, but like every other year, not as strong as Sony's offerings. We got titles like Halo Wars 2, Cuphead, and PUBG, albeit temporarily. Overall, from late 2015 to 2017, we saw the biggest turnaround in the Xbox One's life. Although the games are nothing to brag about, Microsoft and the Xbox team gave people a reason to buy an Xbox One over a PS4, and stopped it from becoming the equivalent to a doorstop, although it does do that job pretty well. Although the Xbox One had recovered from its downward spiral, it was never going to catch the PS4 in sales, and the Xbox One was going to have to settle for second, if not third, after the rapid success of the Nintendo Switch in early 2017. Microsoft knew they couldn't win the sales war, but they saw success in other areas. As previously stated, Xbox had expanded its library into the PC market, bringing in sales in a market previously dominated by Steam. Microsoft were also the first of the big three to openly welcome cross-platform play, with games like Minecraft, Rocket League, and Fortnite. These actions started to improve Microsoft's reputation as the gamers brand, with the Xbox team openly engaging with the community on what can be improved and what games are to be added to the Xbox backwards compatible list. However, games-wise, 2018 was quite damaging to the brand once again. We had a few major releases: Forza Horizon 4, State of Decay 2, and Sea of Thieves, all released on Game Pass on day one. However, State of Decay released full of bugs and glitches, and Sea of Thieves severely lacked in content. Although both these games were improved with updates, the fact that two flagship titles released in this state reflected badly on Xbox. 2018 also saw the beginning of the rumours of new consoles. While the next PlayStation used the same naming logic they always have. Genius! The next Xbox was codenamed Scarlet, and had two models being developed. At E3 2019, the official name Xbox Series X was announced. Who names these things? The console was also announced to have backwards compatibility with everything on Xbox One, and also share a similar interface. With the Xbox One's time nearing its end, the Xbox One had one final year of exclusives, and they weren't terrible. Battletoads, Gears of War 5, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Crackdown 3. A digital-only Xbox One S was also released at a very cheap price late in 2019, but was only produced for a year. With the announcement of the Xbox Series X and S at E3 2020, it was announced that all versions of the Xbox One, bar the One S model, were to be discontinued, virtually marking the end to the console's life. With the console having sold just short of 50 million units at the recording of this video, less than half as many as the PS4, and 10 million less than the Switch, which released 4 years after it. When you look back at the Xbox One, it wasn't really that great of a console. Sure, it had backwards compatibility, Game Pass, a great controller, and also a lack of first-party system-selling titles. Although most Xbox franchises received a title on this console, most of these were pretty underwhelming, especially from the flagship, Halo. The console failed due to a mixture of poor communication to gamers, bad management, and lack of reasons to buy, along with the strong draw of the PS4. As we head forth into the 9th generation, it's a bit too early to say who is leading. However, the legacy of the Xbox One and Sony's strong grip on the market makes the job for Xbox a lot harder. This console isn't going to be remembered to the regard its predecessor was, and there's virtually no reason to buy one these days other than price. However, this is the console that brought me through my teenage years, and for that, I cannot thank it enough. Every time!